Welcome to the All About Us podcast, where we dive into the stories that shape our wellness, purpose, and everything in between. I'm your host, Carl Allen. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Melanie Morton Bucklier, master instructor with Peak Pilates, founder of two successful Pilates studios in Texas, and the force behind the Pilates Cowgirl. Melody's journey blends movement, healing, entrepreneurship, and purpose in ways that inspires thousands. Today, we will explore how Pilates can heal trauma, empower kids, and support women's leadership. Let's jump in. How are you doing today, Melody?
I'm doing great. I'm in Houston, Texas. I was teaching
Okay.
this morning at the studio, had a couple of sessions, and I'm really enjoying talking to you. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it also. Melody, can you take us back to how your journey with Pilates began?
I was living in LA. I spent, the typical stereotypical experience where you're the waitress and you're struggling actress. I did all that.
How long
And
were you in Los Angeles?
almost 10 years, almost 10 years
Hmm.
in the
Well,
90s.
well,
Yes.
we overlapped. I left I left UCLA in 1994.
So in 93, I applied, auditioned for the dance therapy program at UCLA. I had just moved from Houston with a degree in dance from the University of Houston at Clear Lake, and I didn't get in. Yeah. So these experiences in your life where you go on a different trajectory. And so in Santa Monica, I lived in Venice, I lived in Santa Monica, I lived in Burbank, I lived in Glendale. Well, right? So while in LA, yoga and Pilates was exploding in the
Yes, it was.
yeah, and everybody was doing yoga. That's besides my movement background, and, I didn't start moving. I'm using movement as for healing, and
Correct.
I'm using movement heals, and I'm blessed to be able to use my degree now for what I'm doing in life, but I didn't grow up being a dancer per se. It
Okay.
to me late, right? I moved to Paris when I was 18. I moved to Colorado. I went exploring after high school to find who I was as a person and what the meaning of my life meant to me. So I've been a searcher and I decided to go back to school at the community college in Houston and
Okay.
I took a dance class, right? I'm late. I lived some life. I didn't start dancing till I was 22, 23. It was the effect of the movement on my psychology, on my soul. It's something woke up with me and it healed some of the scars that I already had in life, the difficulty of my parents' divorce, raising myself, being latchkey kid and trying to figure things out, not doing well in school, failing, having to go to summer school to graduate. And so I had a transformational experience taking my first movement class.
Okay. What inspired the move from Los Angeles back to Texas?
I was tired of the struggle and waiting tables. I learned how to struggle. I learned how to work. I had 2 agents. I had 1 in San Diego. I had 1 in LA. I had 2 or 3 restaurant jobs. And I mean, you learn how to work, how to hustle.
I was in the music business for a good part of the time I was in California, and I told everybody it was either feast or famine.
Exactly. Exactly. And and I had epiphanies there. I realized I was not a good actress. I really
Okay.
sucked at it.
You did?
So I wasn't willing to be an actress, to be in that industry. I just wasn't willing to walk over dead bodies to get there. Do you know what I mean?
But did you take any acting courses or anything?
I did the training, I did and back then, before this is before cell phones, this is before
Right.
I mean, we're talking, there was everything was you had to really take that course. You had to be, you had to your camera work wasn't like having a cell phone now. You
No.
actually had to pay to be on camera to do the trick.
Camera. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look, how to stand, how to pitch yourself and how to do commercials, right? I mean, it's not even the same. It's a whole different world now. It's
Right.
amazing, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can sit at home and do your own promos and demos. Back then, no way, you were paying for everything.
Right. And now we have AI that can take us, put the makeup on, do the hair,
Right.
and do our do our 30-second promos for Instagram.
Correct. Correct. What inspired you to start your first studio, The Good Space?
What's that movement healed me. And, when you know what moves you, you can move others on all levels. And after doing training uh, in in LA, and I needed to move home. I left LA and I was never going to be able to afford to open my own business in LA. It was just too expensive.
Well, yeah.
It's just astronomical. And that was I moved home in 2001 because I remember 9/11 happened and I was in
Correct.
Austin, Texas. And when 9/11 happened, that epiphany, like, you've got to get what you're doing. What are you going to do with your life? If you have this is another experience that I had after getting a divorce, like all these goals that I had and what I wanted to do. And in terms of kids movement and Pilates and franchising my business, 2001, 9/11 was a wake up for me. Like I heard
Okay.
a calling for myself to do it. Open
Okay.
your business, do your movement. And Pilates had been something that I had been doing, enjoyed it. Hooked up with a certification program. In October, I opened up the Good Space in Houston, took on 4,000 square feet. At that time, I had yoga as well as part of the business plan because both are really viable healing modalities for stress and transformation. So
Okay.
that's what inspired me was my transformation into better self-esteem, better posture. I fell in love with this whole system and it turned it into a business. And at that time, the lawsuit, there was a lawsuit that you couldn't use Pilates in your name of your studio. And there was a lawsuit that Pilates was generic. It's like yoga. You can't trademark Pilates, the word Pilates. And so in 2000, 2001, 2000, the whole industry blew open. And it's having another revival now. There's a Pilates studio in every corner, like Starbucks. I mean, everybody's opening up boutique studios.
Right.
It's taking off again. It's having another revival. So that's what happened. And 23, 24 years later, here I am.
Wow, so very, very interesting. Now, did your experience in dance and acting have any influence on your approach to Pilates at all?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can you
absolutely.
tell us about that?
I would say dance more than anything helped heal my depression, anxiety, and the stress about where I was going, what I was doing. And it seems like when I was growing up, it seemed like everybody had a plan already of where they were going. They were going off to college or they were going to do this. And I was just trying to figure out why I was on the planet. And when I moved to Paris at 18, I was reading Alan Watts and I was reading the I Ching, Taoism. Uh, I was reading, uh, you know, I wasn't going out partying. I was actually searching and I was like,
Self-healing.
yeah, yeah. So I've always been a searcher of the truth and why we're on the planet and what is the meaning of life. And as an 18-year-old, I look back and think, wow, how unusual that somebody that young would, I wasn't out partying.
Right.
I, and I had friends and I had a friend come over and visit me from Texas and she was trying to be a model. So I was exposed to that entire world of modeling in Paris. Yeah. It's not a pretty picture.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Anytime you're in the spotlight, it's very demanding. So what do you think during that inner journey, where you were trying to find your meaning of life? What did you discover? What impacted you most during that period in time, and what did you learn, life and yourself?
So I was in Houston after Paris and after Denver, and it was right before I decided to go to school, go back to school and get a degree. And I didn't know what I was gonna. I thought I was gonna get a degree in psychology
Okay.
or philosophy, and I was waiting tables at Glatzmeyer's and Montrose, and I was leaning against a table, and I was thinking, and I'm thinking, and it dawned on me that I had a flash that the meaning of life was whatever meaning I gave it. And for some reason, that voice in my head, it's up to you to decide what the meaning of your life is. You're the answer to the question. What's in the way is the way. It's your attitude, your intention, your motivation. And that hit me from an angle that resonated and filled me with a lightness that I hadn't felt. And so that's when I went back to school and yeah, started my journey and into movement. And so movement is the arts are really the healing arts, don't you think?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
in music, painting, sculpting, anything like that.
Sculpting.
Any form, acting, any form of natural expression. And I
Yes.
mean, some people are more gifted at it than others, but either way, it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of dedication.
Yes, it does. And I agree with you, the different levels. But even as a therapy, as using movement to heal, as using acting to express, to find emotions, rhythms and dynamics and sounds. And I feel, you're 70% water, right?
Exactly.
So you've heard of somatics where they take the music and they take sand on a drum
Yeah,
and then it creates geometric
like the
shapes.
shapes.
So they do that with water. Dr. Emoto from Japan took water, polluted water, and bear with me, I'll get to this. And he took the polluted water and he wrote love, and on another glass jar he wrote joy and harmony, and on the other polluted water he wrote hate, greed, distrust. And then he took the water, let's say after a couple of days or 3 or 4 days, and he looked at the water under a microscope. So the water, the frequency, the intention behind the water under the microscope of joy and love were these beautiful geometric shapes. And the water under the hate and distrust and greed were fragmented. They weren't they weren't shaped at all. They weren't geometric shapes. And so the analogy is that we are attuning. So our intention, our motivation, and our attitude, we're 70% water. How are we tuning in? What's our frequency?
I
Can
tell people, go ahead.
we put, let's say I had pray and it was in a frozen form and I dropped it into my water and I was tuning into that healing vibration, that frequency of what we do when we pray, because it changes over your food and praying together in a community is healing. Could our water in our body actually hold on and transform and hold that frequency? So that's my new business is having word rocks of love, compassion, empathy, all these beautiful words that line up with certain colors, like red is inspiration, yellow, joy, and putting those words in water and having movement and sound and color to help kids identify their emotional state. And if they're feeling sad, what is that sound? What is that color? And how do we move out of that sadness into empathy and love, which would be the positive instead of the limited? So rounding back around to Dr. Emoto's work and frequency and us being 70% water, we're clay on the inside. And so I teach Pilates from this perspective that we're going to reshape your architecture of your bones, lie you down on a reformer, breathe in a lot of oxygen. It's almost like a body prayer. And I teach with that intention. And it has a huge impact on posture, internal organs, healing, and appreciation for our divine design. I believe the body is divinely designed in its proportion. and it's almost like a fingerprint. Does that make sense? I'm
It
kind of
does.
going off on a tangent.
No, it does because I tell people all the time, words are the power of creation. You can't create anything without saying it and believing it. So, and I've always believed that words go out into the universe and try and bring themselves back into our reality. So it all comes together in that what you're saying.
Yes.
What does the Pilates cowgirl represent to you personally and professionally?
The archetype stereo, of the cowgirl, gotta get a lot of grit, pull your bootstraps up, get it done, girl. You just, after my divorce and I had to redefine who I was and remember who I was because who I thought I was and where I was going. And my kids, it shattered me. So cowgirls pull their bootstraps up and get to work and there's too many people to help. There's too much work to do, and I want to leave the world a better place by doing where I'm inspired, by helping kids, teaching women to appreciate their body more. And I was like, let me go help somebody. That's, that's the Pilates cowgirl. And
Okay.
it's thinking outside the box, being strong, being a bit independent, if I need to get the fence fixed literally or get the burn pile done at the farm, I get it done.
Okay.
So
Now,
there's a, you know, it's fun too. It's a little whimsical because Pilates tends to be really serious.
okay.
We have to have a little fun too.
Okay. Now, are you originally from Texas? Are you originally a farm girl?
I was born in Sugarland. Yes. I was
Okay.
born, which is now a part of Houston, but back then in the 60s, it was a suburb. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I've lived around, I've lived in Europe and in Paris and lived in LA, lived in Chicago, lived in Austin. Yeah, I'm home.
You're
Now I've
you're well traveled.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
you learn, right? You
Yeah, you do. You
learn
do.
how we're all the same, and we
Yeah, that's
all
part
breathe
of
the
life.
same air.
That's part of life, yes. You blend classical Pilates, somatic education, and nervous system science. How did this unique combination come about?
Well, through my own process of learning and recovering from stress, and we're so stressed out in our culture, and especially after COVID, and our kids were affected by COVID. People's health was affected by COVID. People are so stressed. And Pilates comes in and you're moving the spine in a way that you're articulating the spine and rolling on the spine so that you're stimulating all the acupressure points up and down the spine. So that calms the sympathetic nervous system, which is flight, because we are in flight fight constantly. How can we not be? And we're being stimulated constantly with phones. The pace of life is so super fast. And we're always distracted, and it's keeping up, getting the mortgage paid, getting the bills paid, and paying taxes. Just there's so much stress. And so the movement system within itself, the classical movement system, takes the spine through flexion, extension, rotation, and lateral movement through all planes of gravity, meaning your body is challenged like that arm on a clock going through 360 degrees, moving through flexion, extension, rotation, lateral. It's like yoga, but you're doing it on a machine with resistance, not heavy resistance. So it's not weightlifting. It's an eccentric contraction against the load while you move the spine through lying down. You start lying down to seated to kneeling to standing so that when you walk out of a session, you've taken the clay of the body, shaped it over the architecture of the bones, lying down, decompressed, tons of oxygen. Every movement has a breath like yoga, and you leave the session standing. So you've strengthened the entire body, front, side, and back and center, moving the spine through flexion, extension, rotation, lateral movement. Moving without gravity, lying down, stimulating the spine, stimulating the feet has a huge impact internally on the peripheral nervous system, the enteric nervous system, right? Autonomic nervous system, the somatic nervous system. And when you bring awareness to what you're doing in the moment, there's great focus and concentration with the breath and the movement. There's a ton of stress release. It's like being in the zone in music, right? And hours can go by and you don't even realize you're in your flow. So Pilates can put you into that flow because it's breath and rhythm and movement. And it has a huge healing effect on the body.
Okay,
Right?
so it seems
Teaching the body, we're not teaching the brain.
okay.
Sorry, I
So
didn't mean to cut you off.
that's fine. That happens sometimes. So it seems as if you use Pilates to regulate the nervous system also.
Yes, exactly. And you're incorporating the breath with the movement. And I think that one of the keys of the body and calming the system down, and kids need this too. They need to calm. They need to take a breath and they need to understand what they're feeling. And they don't, right? Because they're just told to sit there
Sit there, remain still,
and they're
and be
not meant to do
quiet.
that. They're not meant to do that. Our education program needs to change through music and movement. I'm going to give another metaphor. I like analogies. So your spine is your breaker box in your house, right? All the electricity turns on and off. So think of your spine, your cervical, your thoracic, your lumbar is as you roll through your spine, right? Lying down on the ground doing bridge up and you roll down through your spine. Well, you're taking the acupressure point, that nerve, right, is going to an organ, is going to the pancreas, is going to the intestines. When you roll down the spine, you're sending all those electrical pulses as if you're turning on and off the switches on those nerves, right? And you're building strength and you're building stamina and you're building stretch as you do the program. And it has the effect on calming and strengthening. And it's this amazing internal shower that Joe Pilates actually called it an internal shower. That's not mine. Yeah, because it's also a movement for the organs as well, because you're taking the water and the blood in the system. And there's a lot of advanced Pilates moves where you're going upside down. So you're taking the body and shaking it up like a martini shaker, right? With rocks on the inside. You're getting the blood to go from to the tail to the head, right? Upside down, right side up, sideways, backwards, as you move on this piece of equipment, going through flexion, extension, rotation, lateral movement. These are just the four simple ways the spine moves. And we're using opposition and length. So we're using tensegrity, the integrity of tension, which is a Buckmeister polar term, and the fascia of the body is called the second brain. Another term that's really popular right now. A lot of people are talking about fascia as it's another system. And so all this is happening with or without your conscious control. And in Pilates, we ask for you to pay attention and just pay attention to what's happening in the moment. And how are you stabilizing your shoulder girdle, your pelvic girdle, and how are you strengthening your body and you moving through space with breath and flow? I know it sounds complicated and I'm really talking my head off about it, but
That's fine. That's fine. Can you give a 1 minute definition of what Pilates is and what the theory behind Pilates is for my audience, please?
1 minute. So yeah. And it was developed by Joe Pilates and he termed it controlology. It's a movement system. An actual system of progression of taking the spine through flexion, extension, rotation, and lateral movement in all planes of gravity. It's important to know that it's a movement system based on progression. How was that? Is that a better?
That's good. That's good. In what ways do trauma informed movement practices supporting your healing?
So through trauma, there's memory in the muscle, and people get stuck in their bodies in certain areas. Could be the hips, could be the shoulders, could be a car wreck. I have a client that holds their shoulder up like this, even though there's right. and that's where they were hit by the car because they fell on that side. And bringing awareness to how they're holding that trauma in their body, right? We're teaching the body to release the trauma, release the fascia that's bunched up in that area, to let it go, to have better posture. And there's all kinds of trauma. There's trauma in the heart, physical trauma through either abuse or through a car wreck. And so there's different layers of trauma. So, yes,
Can you share a story where you saw someone transform through movement, emotionally or physically?
well, myself, yeah. In Houston, we've worked with so many women and men, but primarily women are drawn to Pilates. And once the system gets a hold of them and improves their self esteem through movement because they're empowering themselves. And the Pilates certification program that we teach is, we call it the powerhouse. And it's a concept of your center, which is analogous to your soul, your core. And it includes your abdominal muscles, your inner thighs, your glutes, and your diaphragm. So you're once you get a hold of your own powerhouse, your house, your internal house, your stabilizers, right? Your mobilizers, you turn the electricity on in that house, there is a complete transformation of posture, of confidence. Women stand up and start teaching that never thought that they could, from housewives to lawyers to geologists, and it imbues them with a sense of self-esteem because they've empowered their physicality. I know it's simple. It's so simple, it's complex. But, we have a tendency to cut ourselves, paste, cut ourselves down because we're not perfect, especially women. And oh, we're not this, we're not that. And I'm like, you're a child of God. You're the fingerprint. You have no idea that your body has this ability to heal itself. And like you 3D printed a human being that came out of you. That is a miracle. And so I like to use evidence of the fingerprint of God within that physicality for healing and for building self-esteem.
Okay.
It's one of the, if you don't feel good about yourself, go take a walk or go feed a child or go help somebody. That's the best way to and move. Just do something every day because your whole entire system needs to move. The lymph system, circulatory system, right? So if you haven't taken out the trash or brushed your teeth, what's happening? Well, that's happening on the inside too. You have to move. You have to breathe. The intestines have to move. And a lot of the Pilates exercise are based on movement of the enteric nervous system, the brain of the gut, and circulation and percolation and elimination.
Interesting combination.
Yeah. Good rhyme. I'm known for rhyming when I teach. And so all this work is happening for health, internal health. It's not just what's out here on the outside, it's what's going really on the inside. And that's why it helps heal trauma.
What does movement as the front line of mental health mean to you?
Know what moves you and you will move others. Kids, what are the statistics right now? Kids need to move. I think 20% of children between the ages of, and I have the stats written down, have diabetes or obese. Um, yeah. And so it's a battle right now with 20% of US children ages 12 to 19, over 22%. Childhood obesity in youth rose 60% since COVID. That's 352,000 American children and teens that have diabetes since COVID.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a health crisis. And movement like Pilates, where you become conscious and you have conscious control, and your motive and your intention, your attitude is to stand up taller, to feel good about yourself. Let's go in and help children. They don't need an Ozempic shot. They're prescribing Ozempic now to children. They need fresh air, they need water, they need good clean food, and they need movement.
And sunlight.
Yes, vitamin D. Yes. So a part of my goal is to get Pilates into schools or some type of program. And that's focus right now is getting maybe this color and sound and movement, and a stand-up cheer is focused. Maybe it should be in PE, or, or it could be recess, where children are identifying emotions through color, and then the movement, and able to identify and then move. And Pilates being in school as just a way of being healthy and having good posture. One of the big things right now that's going on is kids have text neck, right? So their head is forward so much that they're creating bone spurs on C7, right? The cervical spine. And it's because we're on computers and on
Laptops and everything.
yeah, all day long. So that's really one of my passions, is to get kids moving.
Now you've covered, why this is so crucial for children. It seems to be very much so equally important for women too, more so than men. And why is this?
That's such a good question, Carl. Because Pilates was developed by a man for men. Really. I mean, he was doing calisthenics before there was calisthenics. And so he had people doing jumping jacks and running in place, and then doing his core workout, his controlology, which just done on the mat originally. So, and it's amazing that women have taken over the movement system. I'll tell you a secret, Joe didn't really like dancers because they changed. He was rehabbing Balanchine's dancers in New York, and they changed his work and they reinterpreted it into something else. And so, because there was exercises he wouldn't let women do on the reformer because they weren't strong enough. And I think because Pilates is low impact, there's no stress or strain on the heart and the joints, and it's not cardio, it's not weightlifting, that it's just captured the attention of women because it's something they can do and not expire their muscles to failure, but still get the same look as a ballerina. There's so much more to it than just looking good. But maybe that's probably why, is that there's there's so many Instagram videos right now of women looking great on a reformer.
What is a reformer?
So Joe developed a piece of equipment that is spring loaded, and it's the carriage. It's about 7.5 feet long. It's a wood frame. It's about 2.5 feet, 3 feet wide, and you lie down on it, and there's springs. So there's usually typically 4 to 5 springs. And so you lie down and you push out and pull in. So you're immediately starting doing squats, right? And that's what a reformer is. And you can sit on a reformer, you can lie down on the reformer, you can stand on the reformer. There's a box. You lie down on the box, which elevates the spine, which adds progression to the exercises. You can go into an extension, you can go into back bends. So you are playing the tension. You're using opposition and length to strengthen your muscles. Yeah, that's the
And how much does a reformer cost? And where would my audience get one of these things from?
they're everywhere now. You can find them on Instagram, you can find them on Facebook, you can find everybody's making reformers.
And what do they cost?
They can go to Amazon and get a reformer. They can range anywhere from $600 to 7,500. Yeah.
You have to really be into Pilates.
Huh?
I said you really have to be into Pilates then to spend that type of money.
Yes. And so, but originally, it wasn't like what I want to do in schools has nothing to do with the equipment. It's his methodology and his movement program, his order of his Pilates mat. Originally, it was just an order of exercises on the mat. That's all it was. So I could take that into schools and teach that as a PE program.
Well, you created something called Stand Up and Cheer. Can you tell us what that is all about?
That is trying to get kids into their body, and it's just a rhyme with rhythm, and to get I want kids to stand up inside of themselves for self-esteem, and I want to focus in on the core of self. And so stand up is standing up for yourself inside of yourself. So Pilates focuses on your core and good posture, which improves your self-esteem. And the stand-up chair is something that I see as what I want to do in schools where kids, young, they're clapping and cheering and chanting this to stand up for themselves. It's that simple. It's really that simple.
What do you think posture, breath, and movement should be as part of a child's education?
As a part so this all ties in together with, helping kids move because of the obesity and diabetes problems right now, especially after COVID, and so they took PE out of the daily schedule. Most kids aren't getting PE daily, and they're not getting movement, they're not getting the circulation that they need and the health that they need on the inside as well as the outside, and so they need some time to calm the nervous system, to settle down, and exercise is a part of that program, whether it be putting PE back or doing some type of mind body breath movement like Pilates so they can calm and so they can concentrate on what needs to be done in school. And because kids aren't meant to sit at a desk all day, and if there was more movement and more exercise programs for them to do, I don't think we'd be having the problems with good food to eat, and there wouldn't be such a problem with obesity, right? And diabetes. And so there's other factors that are socioeconomic factors that are in that and the school's food. And there's a lot of things happening at one time as to why kids are gaining weight, processed foods, seed oils, too much sugar that's in the food as well. And they kids need to be taught movement that's they can do anywhere. They don't have to be in a class.
Well, it's interesting to me because, I've heard about Pilates. I had no idea what it was. I figured it was some form of exercise, but it seems as though you're bringing it into a whole different arena here. This is the first time I've heard about introducing Pilates to kids. So, what
Yeah.
do you see happens when you introduce Pilates to children, and how does it change their interaction in school and at home?
Well, I think that if kids learn how to stand up tall inside themselves and feel confident about who they are, I think that's a win. I think if they're pulling in oxygen, right, enough and learning how to breathe and learning how does my body work? What direction does my spine move? Oh, I can twist, I can bend, I can lift tall, I can go sideways, Where is my core? Why is my core important? Why is now if I'm playing video games and I'm on my phone, because most kids have cell phones now, even at 7, what's happening here when the head is forward, right? The posture is bad. They are cutting off their oxygen to their brain. So imagine teaching kids about health and vitality and simple how what is good posture? What does that mean? How is that going to affect how I'm breathing and how I feel? If I'm cutting off my oxygen and I'm not getting enough air into my brain, right? And I'm having poor posture, how does that affect them for the rest of the day? And they're doing this habitually. I mean, like this, we're plugged in. It's, it's like a double-edged sword, these things. Can't live with them and live without them. I'm sure there's apps that kids can have now that if their head's going too far forward in front of their spine, that will, help them bring their head back. But it's a huge problem.
What has the response been from schools and parents, as far as you initiating this new kind of movement of Pilates and directing it towards children?
Well, my plan is to get it into East Texas, into this Palestine school district. So that's my goal this
Okay.
next year.
Okay.
Yes.
So you haven't really started implementation of this
No.
as of yet.
I'm
Okay.
writing the program, getting certain things trademarked, like the word rocks.
Okay.
Yeah. Identifying emotions through color. movement and sound and the frequency of rocks being held in the water. It's kind of like a whole PE program and children's program and a movement program as well. So, yeah.
Do you have any idea how you can make movement more accessible to children of different communities and cultures?
It's so simple. Yeah, it's something that needs to be incorporated, maybe if it's just 15 minutes. I mean, I see this as Houston Independent School District. What are they doing to teach kids posture? What type of and how are we this could be just something so simple with an agenda and a lesson plan that teachers could teach. It doesn't have to be me. It could be ET.
When I was when I was young, posture was real big. I mean, if you were slumped over, your parents or your teacher would smack you in your head or something and tell you to stand up straight.
Exactly. And now it's glamorous to like be slumped over. I mean, I see that in Vogue all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's it's I think because of cell phone and computer use, I think it's really important that um children and youth and even in high school, it's so important that um we are breathing properly, we're standing up taller. When you stand up and you pull your head back in line with your spine, you're telling your brain, I feel good about myself.
Right.
Somatically, you're telling yourself, you know, and we're strengthening from our core. It's direct analogous to self esteem, your core, who you are. Stand up tall within yourself. You're a child of God, you're a divine design. And children